The Johnson family was buzzing with excitement as they prepared to start their long-awaited home renovation. After years of saving and planning, they finally had the chance to transform their cozy but outdated house into their dream home. With bright paint colors in mind, new flooring to install, and a backyard that needed a complete makeover, the whole family, Karen, her husband Tom, and their 2 kids, Lily and Jake, was eager to get started. On a sunny Saturday morning, the family gathered around the dining room table with blueprints spread out in front of them. Karen pointed enthusiastically at different sections of the plans, while Tom made notes about materials they would need. The kids chimed in with their ideas for a treehouse and a fun play area. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and joy as they discussed how each change would make their home more comfortable and enjoyable for everyone. They hired a contractor named Mike, who came highly recommended in their neighborhood. With his experience and friendly demeanor, the family felt confident that he could bring their vision to life. On his first day at the job, Mike arrived early, ready to tackle the tasks ahead. Karen watched him closely, excited to see the transformation begin. However, as days turned into weeks, Karen's enthusiasm started to fade. Little things began to bother her, like delays in delivery or minor mistakes in the work. What began as excitement soon morphed into frustration. Each day, she found herself feeling more anxious about the project's progress. The cheerful atmosphere of their initial planning began to dim as tensions rose between Karen and Mike. Little did they know that this exciting journey would soon spiral out of control into a dramatic showdown that would involve social media drama and community disputes. As the days went by, Karen's excitement about the home renovation turned into a growing sense of anxiety and frustration. Although she had envisioned a beautiful new space for her family, the reality of the project felt far from perfect. Small delays started to pile up, and Mike, the contractor, seemed overwhelmed with his workload. Initially, Karen tried to be patient, reminding herself that renovations often take time. However, each misstep became harder to ignore. One afternoon, after noticing that the paint color they had chosen was lighter than expected, Karen snapped. She confronted Mike as he stepped off the ladder. "This is not what we discussed. I wanted it to look more vibrant," she exclaimed, her voice echoing around their half-finished living room. Mike tried to reassure her, explaining that sometimes paint dries differently than intended and that he could fix it. But instead of following his lead, Karen's worries morphed into anger. Feeling overwhelmed, she began filming Mike during his work hours without telling him. She posted her videos on Facebook and expressed her grievances publicly, claiming he wasn't doing his job properly. Friends and neighbors began to comment on her posts, stirring up more attention than she had anticipated. Karen's daily confrontations with Mike escalated quickly. Each day brought new complaints, whether minor mishaps or delays in deliveries, and she found herself yelling more often than she realized. Her frustration reached a boiling point when she threatened to call the city inspector over one small issue. It became clear that this was no longer just a renovation project. It was turning into a battleground where her hopes for a dream home were clashing violently with reality. As tensions rose between them, Karen had no idea just how far this conflict would go or the consequences it would bring. As the renovation dragged on, Karen's daily interactions with Mike turned increasingly hostile. Each morning, she would watch him closely as he arrived to work, her expectations high but her patience low. It wasn't long before the tension in the air became almost palpable. The moment she noticed anything amiss, whether it was a misplaced tool or a delay in getting supplies, she couldn't hold back her frustration. One day, after observing Mike struggle with hanging drywall, Karen abruptly walked up to him. "Why is this taking so long? I could have done this myself," she shouted, her voice slicing through the quiet of the afternoon. Mike tried to explain the complexities of the task and assure her that he was doing his best, but his words fell on deaf ears. Instead of listening, Karen pulled out her phone and began recording him without his permission. "This is what happens when you hire someone unqualified," she declared for her Facebook audience. Her confrontations became a daily ritual. Each time Mike made a mistake or missed a deadline, Karen would unleash a torrent of complaints. During one particularly heated exchange about plumbing issues, she yelled at him for not checking things more thoroughly before starting. "You're wasting our money. Do you even care?" The loudness of her voice echoed through the half-finished house as neighbors peeked out from their windows, drawn by the commotion. Karen's filming continued unabated. Each video posted online depicted Mike in various states of stress or frustration, often edited to fit her narrative. Friends and family who saw her posts began to chime in with advice and comments, some supportive and others more critical of Mike's work ethic. It became a spectacle that both embarrassed and angered the contractor further. Soon enough, Karen's relentless confrontations and public outbursts spiraled into something that neither she nor Mike had anticipated, a conflict that would escalate far beyond just home renovations. As Karen's frustrations boiled over, she made the questionable decision to take her complaints to social media. Fueled by anger and seeking validation from her friends and family, she began posting videos and comments about Mike's alleged incompetence. Each post painted him in a negative light, often distorting the truth and exaggerating minor mistakes into major failures. In one video, she claimed that he had left tools scattered across her yard, showcasing what she described as a complete disregard for her property. The thrill of getting likes and reactions online became intoxicating for her. Friends and neighbors began to chime in, some offering support while others criticized Mike without knowing the full story. Each notification felt like a small victory against the contractor she believed was ruining her dream renovation. It wasn't long before word spread throughout the neighborhood, and what started as small grievances transformed into a public spectacle that attracted significant attention. Her posts escalated quickly. One day, after a minor plumbing issue arose, Karen took to Facebook again with a video featuring water dripping from a pipe. "Can you believe this?" she exclaimed dramatically. "This is what happens when you hire someone unqualified. I'm about to call the city on him." Though Mike had already explained that every renovation has its hiccups, those details were lost in the fury of her online rants. As more people began commenting on her posts, Karen reveled in being at the center of this online drama but failed to see the damage it was causing not just to Mike's reputation but also to her own. Friends urged her to reconsider, but she brushed off their concerns, feeling empowered by the attention. However, she was unaware that this path could lead to serious consequences for both her and Mike, consequences that would soon unfold in ways neither of them could anticipate. As Karen continued her verbal assaults online, Mike felt a wave of betrayal wash over him. He had initially taken the job with enthusiasm, eager to help the Johnson family realize their dream home. Now, instead of collaboration, he faced constant scrutiny and public humiliation. Each time Karen posted a new rant, he felt the sting of her words cut deeper. He had always prided himself on his work ethic and dedication, but the way she portrayed him was nothing short of devastating. One evening, after receiving notifications of yet another Facebook post from Karen, Mike sat down to watch the video. The more he saw her exaggerations and misrepresentations, the more his frustration mounted. He had tried to address her concerns throughout the renovation, but now it seemed like nothing he said mattered. In her relentless pursuit for validation and sympathy from her online audience, she had crossed a line that left him feeling disrespected and devalued. Feeling defeated and cornered by Karen's accusations, Mike decided enough was enough. After discussing the situation with a friend who worked in law, he learned about defamation. It was a hard decision for him to make. Quitting would mean leaving behind the project he had invested so much time into. But the emotional toll was too great to bear. He submitted his resignation to the Johnson family, but not before deciding to take legal action against Karen for the damage her words had caused. As he filed the defamation suit, Mike hoped that standing up for himself would restore some of the dignity that Karen had stripped away. Little did either of them know that this conflict would only escalate further, leading to even more serious consequences that neither had anticipated. After resigning from the project, Mike took a few days to gather his thoughts and reflect on the situation. The more he thought about Karen's online statements, the more determined he became to fight back. He felt that her constant false accusations not only misrepresented his work but also harmed his reputation in the community. With each view and comment on her posts, the damage became clearer to him. Mike decided to consult with a lawyer who was well-versed in defamation cases. During their conversation, he learned that in order to file a lawsuit, he needed to prove that Karen's posts were untrue and harmful. Armed with this knowledge, he meticulously documented all of Karen's rants by saving videos and screenshots of her Facebook posts. Each detail solidified his case and fueled his resolve. The decision to file a defamation suit was not made lightly. It felt like a last resort to reclaim his name. He recognized it could be a lengthy and stressful process, but it also empowered him to take control of a situation that had spiraled out of his hands. Instead of allowing Karen's relentless attacks to define him, Mike chose to stand up for his professional integrity. When the suit was officially lodged, it sent shockwaves through both their lives. Friends began discussing the legal battle, and soon it became the talk of the neighborhood. Karen was stunned by Mike's actions. She hadn't anticipated any serious repercussions from her online behavior. As she read about the lawsuit on social media, panic washed over her. She realized that her quest for attention had backfired spectacularly. This new chapter marked the beginning of an escalating saga, where legal arguments would intertwine with personal conflicts, drawing in neighbors and community members as they watched from the sidelines, eager for every twist in the unfolding drama between Mike and Karen. As the legal battle commenced, Mike found himself preparing for the small claims court process. He had learned that this was a more accessible way to address his defamation claim without the complexities and costs of a full-blown trial. The small claims court was designed to handle disputes involving relatively minor amounts of money, making it an ideal setting for Mike's case against Karen. Mike arrived at the courthouse, armed with his documentation and a sense of determination. The atmosphere was buzzing with people waiting to present their cases, and he couldn't help but feel a mix of anxiety and resolve. When it was finally his turn, he stood before the judge, ready to explain how Karen's false accusations had undermined his work and damaged his reputation in the community. With the judge listening attentively, Mike laid out the evidence he had carefully compiled, screenshots of Karen's posts, videos she had shared, and accounts from neighbors who had witnessed her rants online. Each piece of evidence painted a clear picture of how exaggerated her claims were. He spoke passionately about how her words affected both his professional and personal life. Karen, on the other hand, arrived unprepared, still underestimating the impact of her actions. She attempted to defend herself by arguing that her posts were merely expressions of frustration, but the judge emphasized that freedom of speech does not protect false statements harmful to someone's reputation. After hearing both sides, the judge ruled in Mike's favor, acknowledging that Karen's accusations lacked any factual basis. The verdict felt like a weight lifting off Mike's shoulders. He had triumphed not only in reclaiming his name but also in standing up against bullying behavior. As news spread about the court's decision through their community, it became evident that the consequences of Karen's actions were far-reaching. Soon after, the HOA reviewed the situation and took steps to prevent further interactions between Karen and contractors working in their neighborhood, marking yet another twist in this complicated saga. Following the court's ruling in Mike's favor, the Homeowners Association, HOA, felt compelled to step in and address the situation. The HOA had a responsibility to maintain community standards and ensure that all residents interacted respectfully with one another, especially when it came to contractors and vendors working within the neighborhood. The board convened a meeting shortly after the verdict, inviting residents to discuss the implications of Karen's behavior and its impact on the community. Many neighbors had witnessed the unfolding drama online and were eager to voice their opinions. The atmosphere was tense as residents recounted their own experiences with Karen, describing her behavior as increasingly disruptive and concerning. During the meeting, HOA members emphasized the importance of fostering a cooperative environment where conflicts could be resolved amicably. They expressed disappointment over how Karen had handled her frustrations publicly instead of seeking constructive dialogue. After careful deliberation, the board decided to implement measures aimed at preventing further issues. One of the key decisions made was to formally ban Karen from interacting with any vendors or contractors working on properties in their neighborhood. This action was not taken lightly, it aimed to protect both contractors from unnecessary confrontations and residents from witnessing further disturbances. The board also encouraged other homeowners to communicate openly if they faced similar issues in the future. Karen was informed of these new regulations through a letter from the HOA. As she read through it, she felt a wave of disbelief mixed with anger. She hadn't anticipated that her actions would lead to such serious restrictions. Meanwhile, Mike felt a sense of relief knowing that his fellow contractors would be safeguarded from any potential fallout caused by Karen's outbursts. As news spread about the HOA's decision, it brought a sense of unity among many residents who supported Mike's fight for fairness. However, for Karen, it marked a significant turning point, a stark reminder that her actions had consequences beyond what she had ever imagined. The outcome of the HOA's decision sent ripples through the community, particularly for Karen. Banned from interacting with vendors and contractors, she found herself isolated and frustrated. The letter outlining the ban detailed that any contractor or vendor working in the neighborhood could report her if she attempted to approach them. This restriction was not just about her behavior, it was also a preventive measure aimed at ensuring that no other residents would face similar disruptions. As days turned into weeks, Karen struggled to come to terms with the consequences of her actions. She had always prided herself on being an active member of the community, but now she felt ostracized. Whenever she saw contractors setting up in the neighborhood, she was reminded of the limitations imposed on her. The humiliation stung, and she often replayed moments from the past few months in her mind, wishing she had handled things differently. Meanwhile, Mike experienced a sense of relief knowing that he and his fellow contractors would be safe from any further confrontations. With Karen sidelined, he was able to return to work without fear of harassment or public accusations. The atmosphere among contractors improved, allowing them to focus on their jobs rather than worrying about potential disputes. The community's response was mixed. Some residents supported the HOA's decision, believing it fostered respect among neighbors and encouraged open communication. Others saw it as a heavy-handed approach. Regardless, people were more cautious about how they expressed frustrations moving forward. As Karen watched from a distance, observing how life continued around her while she remained on the sidelines, she began to realize that her quest for attention had cost her dearly, not only in terms of reputation but also relationships within her community. It became clear that this chapter in her life would serve as a harsh lesson about accountability and the importance of managing conflicts constructively. As the dust settled from the tumultuous events surrounding their home renovation, the Johnson family gathered to reflect on what had transpired. Karen, still grappling with the consequences of her actions, recognized that her initial frustrations had spiraled into a conflict that affected not just her but also her family and the community. The experience served as a powerful lesson about communication and respect. Sitting around the kitchen table, Karen shared her feelings with Tom and the kids. "I let my anger get the best of me," she admitted, her voice heavy with regret. "Instead of addressing my concerns calmly, I turned everything into a battle. I should have communicated better with Mike." Tom nodded in agreement, acknowledging that patience and open dialogue could have changed the course of their renovation journey. Lily and Jake listened intently, absorbing the lessons from their parents' experience. They learned how important it was to express frustrations constructively rather than letting them fester. The family discussed how they could apply these lessons to their future projects and interactions with others in their neighborhood. Meanwhile, Mike had also grown through this ordeal. He realized that maintaining professionalism, even in challenging situations, was crucial. His experience had taught him to set boundaries and to advocate for himself when necessary, skills he would carry into future projects. In the weeks that followed, Karen made an effort to reach out to other neighbors, seeking to mend relationships strained by her earlier actions. She learned that taking responsibility for one's behavior is vital in rebuilding trust and respect within a community. As the renovation neared completion, the Johnson family felt a renewed sense of unity and understanding. They recognized that while home improvements are important, fostering positive relationships through communication is equally essential. This journey had not only transformed their house but also strengthened their family bonds and taught them invaluable lessons about respect and accountability in all aspects of life.